Guess who's back? Back again. We are back. The sun is out and the day is almost over. Thank God. I'm ready to go to bed. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a long day.
Facts. I've been up since like 4 o'clock this morning. I'm ready to crash out. So, hope everyone is feeling good in the neighborhood. But if you ain't, you in the right place. Don't worry. To those who came back, we love you. If you listened for the first time, we love you too. So don't worry. If you're new, you're in for a treat. We're going to step in between the lines. We're going to talk a little bit about the MLB possibly having a salary cap going forward in the future. We got Ronda Rousey versus Gina Carano. Who you taking, and is the fight going to live up to the hype? I hope it does. I hope it's not another Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones Jr. exhibition fight. We got Chicago Bears possibly moving to Indiana. I think that's going to be a bad move for Chicago, maybe a bad move for the NFL if they let that happen. But you never know. And then can Tyreek Hill return to form after his injury? The dude had a dislocated knee. That's a torn ACL and many torn ligaments in the knee. So whether or not he can return and be that speedy receiver, it's gonna be up to question. But either way, we got a good show. We got all that and more coming up for you guys. You guys are in the right place. We're gonna step back in between the lines and we're gonna have a little bit of fun. We're gonna be right back right after this break. Hypnotizer, neuralizer, vivid memories turn to fantasies. Now we back, and don't worry, we ain't gonna neuralize you for this conversation. Don't worry. All right. So Netflix and Jake Paul's fight promotion just announced that Carano versus Ronda Rousey will happen May 16th. Now, like I said before, I hope it's not another Mike Tyson Roy Jones Jr. fight, because that fight, vision being 2020, The fight was kind of boring. The fight itself was lacking. I'm hoping this one is going to be a lot more exciting because it is MMA. You got two of the faces of women's combat sports during their eras. It's going to be 5 rounds at featherweight, so it's going to cap at 145 pounds. It's going to have 4-ounce gloves. Again, it's going to be a really good fight. Gina Carano has a career record of 7-1, with Ronda Rousey posting a career record of 12-2. Now, Gina Carano hasn't fought since 2009. Ronda Rousey hasn't fought since 2016. Being that's the comparable time distance since they've last fought, who do you think is going to take the fight, and do you think it's going to live up to the hype?
I think it'll definitely live up to the hype, AJ. I think Rousey's going to take this one. I honestly do.
What makes you think I'm taking Carano. What makes you think Ronda Rousey is going to be able to sit there and throw hands with Gina Carano?
I just think that Carano's looking for a payday, to be honest with you. Rousey didn't even... She was in talks with Dana White, right?
Yeah, she's been trying to get this fight with Dana White for a minute, but Dana White wouldn't let the fight happen. If I remember correctly, hearing noise about that. I think whenever the fight comes up, Ronda Rousey's always said Dana White didn't want to sanction that fight.
Right, and I think it came down to the amount of money they were going to be paid also, so which is why they went in the Netflix direction.
Okay.
But honestly, I just think Rousey's a better athlete. I mean, she's still under 40. She's sitting at 39.
Oh, why you got to bring the age? The age is going to play a point, but
I
dang.
have to, man. I have to. 43 is getting up there in age.
Dude,
I mean,
she's going to be 44 by the fight.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah. I mean, and she hasn't fought in 16 years, 17 years almost.
Yeah. Ronda Rousey hasn't fought in almost a decade.
Yeah, and Rousey's last fight was a first-round knockout loss, but, I mean, you can't.
Yeah.
She's just an athlete.
Yeah. The thing I think that's going to play a lot into this fight is, one, is going to be the reach, because Ronda Rousey has a longer reach than Gina Carano. Ronda Rousey, I believe, has like a 68 reach, while Gina Carano has like a 66.5 inch reach on her, which, for those of you who don't know, the reach is the arm length that one fighter has towards the other. So being that Carano has a shorter reach than Rousey, if Rousey can get in and get her to the ground and it's a wrestling and it's a grappling type fight, then I think she's going to take Gina Carano. But if Gina Carano can keep it on the feet, with her specialty being Muay Thai, Gina Carano is going to kick that rear end all day, all night.
And, that's what I agree. But I think Rousey is going to prepare for this fight. She knows what's coming, especially after having her last fight be a knockout loss.
Dude,
I just don't see
her last 2 fights.
Right. I just don't see her, letting it come down to the fact of her getting knocked out and being on the feet. I think she's just going to play it safe the entire time, especially with that longer reach, and just take her to the ground.
I would agree with you if her last 2 fights didn't show the opposite of what you're talking about, right? Because her last 2 fights were against Holly Holmes and Amanda Nunes. Now, she doesn't have Treverdian, her trainer during the UFC, in this fight, then I would be on your side.
Right.
But as long as he's not coaching her, okay, I can see your point. But I think Ronda Rousey is stubborn enough to think she can throw hands with Gina Carano, because she tried to throw hands with Holly Holmes. For those of you who don't know Holly Holmes was a champion kickboxer. She tried to go in the octagon and kickbox with Holly Holmes. Who do you think's going to win that fight? The boxer or the grappler who's... People want to say she could throw hands like Joe Rogan wants to say, oh, she's got the best hands. She ain't got hands.
Right.
If you ever watch her throw hands, it's pathetic.
Right.
She tried to box with the boxer, and the boxer wiped the floor with her, knocked her out with a head kick. She takes, I think, a year off because she fought Holly Holmes in 2015, then she comes back in 2016 to fight Nunes.
Yes.
It's the same thing. She tried to go in there and stand up and strike with Amanda Nunes. And Amanda Nunes, she's one of probably the best fighters in the UFC for women's division.
Right.
Some consider her the GOAT of the women's division in UFC. Amanda Nunes can stand up, but then she can also wrestle you on the ground. But Ronda Rousey's best chance would have been on the ground, but instead she tried to strike with the Nunes, and Nunes went in there and just said, nah, we gonna end this in 45 seconds. I gotta get home, feed my dogs, kiss the kids, and that'll be it.
Right, but I think that those 2 experiences is why Rousey is just gonna have that upper leg in this fight. I just don't think that she makes the same mistake 3 times in a row. I mean, you always hear the saying, 3rd time's the charm. I think this is it for Rousey. I don't see her, training for this fight and not looking back at her last 2 fights and being like, wow, I definitely, from a strategic standpoint, went in the wrong direction here. I definitely need to keep this one on the ground, and I need to make sure Carano doesn't knock me out, because if you've watched some of her most famous knockouts, they're quick.
Oh yeah, she'll get in there. She tears up the body. She'll go to the head, but she can also take a beating if you try and strike with her too.
Right.
If you watched her last fight, Gina Carano's last fight, it was against Cyborg. Cyborg was a big girl, and Gina Carano, she took a lot of punishment in that fight because Cyborg got her on the ground and she was just tearing her up. But Carano, like, yes, she got beat, but if you watch that fight, Carano had her, but for some reason, Carano let Cyborg up off the ground when she had her in a ground and pound. Carano, if she can stay on her feet and strike with Rousey, I think Carano's going to have the win. I'm just hoping, all in all, that it's a great fight. It's not another Jones Jr. fight and Mike Tyson. Because if you remember that fight, that happened a couple years ago. I think it was like 2020 the fight happened.
Right.
Two of the greatest boxers to ever box. It was an exhibition fight. Okay, cool, I can understand that. But just the difference, you could see in the training difference going into that fight. That fight was so boring. Nobody took a headshot. You can see their age. I'm just hoping it's not another one of those fights. Do you think this fight's going to live up to the hype?
I really do. I think that they're both two fighters that are coming out of retirement for one reason, one reason only, and that's just for the love of the game.
Yeah.
And I really think that they're both preparing and both want to win this fight. Carano might be looking for a payday, considering her last fight was in 2009. But
I do think Carano is looking for a payday, so I agree with you on that. And I say that because if we're going to, just a little bit of context, Carano kind of was blacklisted, kind of ostracized out from Hollywood since her Mandalorian days. So she's probably been looking to get back into something. And so the fight path kind of opened up for her again to go back and do fighting and go back to her first love and passion. So I think there's a little bit of a payday in there, but also because she loves fighting. That's what she started doing.
Right. And honestly, what I was saying before is just they're both incredible athletes. I think Rousey has a little bit more of that expectation under her after her two losses coming out of UFC, and then Dana White kind of blindsiding her a little bit, almost not loving the whole retirement coming out party and everything.
Yeah.
But I think this is just going to be a great one. And it's going to be spoke about for a while.
I'm hoping so too, just because the fight in itself is so much hype. Because if you look at both of them and where they came from, Ronda Rousey, bronze medalist in judo. She was the face of combat sports at her time. Before there was a Ronda Rousey, before there was a women's division in the UFC, it was Gina Carano, Strikeforce, the face of women's combat sports. Ronda Rousey even contributes her going into UFC and MMA to Gina Carano. So seeing that, it's almost like how we talked about last time. It was Chloe Kim versus Che Gowan, the mentor versus the mentee.
Right.
It's kind of like that situation here, where you have the mentor or the inspiration versus the mentee or the student who came up after her and just blew up women's combat sports. So if we get the best out of both of them, it's going to be a great fight. That's going to be probably fight of the year. I mean, you got in the two different contrasting styles. I mean, come on.
Right.
You're going to have the Muay Thai striker versus the judo grappler. I'm going to try and get you to the ground. I'm praying for a great fight. But we brought up ages like earlier. Gina Carano is going to be 44 the day of the fight. And Ronda Rousey's 39. They're both up there in age. So,
well, that's my question for you. Do you think that this is going to be a 2-round fight, or do you think it's going to decision? Because I think if you get past 2 rounds, I honestly think that if you get past 2 rounds, that it's going to decision.
I'm praying and hope it goes 5 rounds, but it's going to be how's their conditioning. Because remember, they are 44 and 39, and they haven't fought in a long time. There's only so much sparring can do in training. I'm praying it goes to 5. I think it is because Gina Carano's a tough girl. She can take a beating. And same thing with Rousey. She can take a beating. Well, I don't want to say she can take a beating after the last 2 fights, but I think, being the last 2 fights, she is going to learn a little bit from the last 2 fights. Maybe manage distance a little better. Try and get up in her and get her to the ground. I'm hoping it does go 5 rounds, though, because I want to see what happens if it goes to the card. Right. So I think it's going to be a great fight. You think it's going to be a great fight. We might differ a little bit on who's going to win. I'm taking Carano. I'm backing Carano all the way up to the end of the fight. That's my girl. I'm hoping she knocks her out. I'm hoping in the first round. That'd be a birthday present for me.
Not happening.
Oh, it's going to happen.
It's
Watch.
not
First
happening,
round
man.
knockout.
I'm sorry. I think Rousey gets her on the ground, and it's just going to be in the trenches kind of day.
If it goes to the ground, I'm taking Carano in a ground and pound. Just
nope. I have to
That's how it's
disagree
gonna
with you
end.
on that one.
We're gonna have to agree to disagree. But coming back, make sure you guys stay right here. Next, we got, does the Chicago Bears going to Indiana affect the NFL, and how's that gonna affect the fan base? They'll still be in the Chicago metropolitan area, but they'll be across state lines in Indiana. How's that gonna look for Chicago? How's that gonna look on the NFL? So make sure you guys stay right here. We'll be right back after this break. These are the things that change boys to men. And that's what they say about football, right? It's the gridiron. Boys turn into men. And men, ooh, let me tell you something. Chicago Bears, they might move to Indiana. That's one of the founding teams of the NFL. If they move to Indiana, first off, what's do you think the possibility of them moving to Indiana?
I think at this point, with what I've read and what I've seen, it's about a 50-50 chance.
You think so? So doing a little bit of research and trying to figure out, so they potentially might move to Hampton, Indiana, which they say is still in like the Chicago metropolitan area, right? So they'll keep the name Chicago Bears, but they physically won't be in Chicago. Just like the Giants or the Jets, they're the
Right.
New York Giants, the New York Jets. But they don't play in New York, but they have the big city name with the team. And originally they were supposed to go to Arlington. Then they were supposed to be, they're going to take over the college or the history campus next to Soldier Field. Now it's Indiana. The Chicago Bears they want a property tax break, right? They don't want to have to pay the property tax for the entire construction. They want a tax break or they want the people to pay for it initially. I'm like, My problem with that is you are a $1 billion team. Why does the fans always have to pay for a new tax or a new stadium?
Also, if you're a fan of the Chicago Bears and you've been a fan for decades, they haven't done anything, right? They have not done anything, and you're finally getting a team with Caleb Williams that didn't look too hot last season, but this prior season that just happened, I mean, he looked like a stud. I mean, he was coming back in some of the best fourth quarter comeback stories I've ever seen. I mean, if you look at the Green Bay Packers, you came back from 21 to 3.
I think it was like 19, 20 points. And like
19 to 3 or 21 to 3.
Yeah, they put out their little Tom Brady 28-3 card.
Right.
Like,
and if you're looking at a Chicago Bears fan, you're thrilled to be a fan right now. Like you're
you
seeing
see the
a future.
You see the potential.
You know, you see Luther Burden finally playing a play coming out of Missouri. He's getting there. You know, you have Roma Dunze. DJ Moore's still a stud. He's not his prime anymore.
No, but he can still. He's a good safety blanket. Still if you need it.
Right. He's a guy that can get you 5 receptions for 60 yards. But now the team's looking to move to Indiana.
Well, they've been looking since 2022 to get a new stadium, right? Soldier Field, I will admit, they need some upgrades. They probably do need a new stadium at this point. But to leave Chicago, that is the city. You have been there since you were playing at the Cubs Stadium. Since the founding of the NFL, the Chicago Bears have always been there. Walter Payton, Gale Sayers. It's like all these guys have such a history there in Chicago. Indiana's trying hard to get them too. Indiana's House of Representatives just passed a bill that allows them a new stadium authority to finance and construct and lease the stadium. Because the Bears have never owned their stadiums, whether they played at the Cubs Stadium or Wrigley or even the stadium before Soldier Field. They've never owned their own stadium. So this would be a chance for them to own their own stadium. The passage of the Senate bill was Senate Bill 27, if I'm saying that correctly. It would mark the most meaningful step forward in our stadium planning efforts to date. Chicago's owners didn't mention Illinois at all, but he said the passage of that bill is the most meaningful thing going forward in getting a new stadium. So it seems the likelihood of them going to Indiana is creeping up there. And I get they'll keep the name, but at that point, you're across state lines, right? You're in Indiana. I think you said earlier it was 150 miles away from the Colts Stadium.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people are, 100 and something miles, that's okay, but that's like 2-3 hours. That's still pretty close for 2 football stadiums. So I don't know how that's going to affect the NFL and the teams. I think it's going to affect the fan base a lot of the Chicago Bears.
I think it's going to tear it apart. I mean, if you look at a lot of teams, and I'm an Eagles fan, I love the Birds, and they travel amazing. But again, they have their stadium right in the middle of the city. And if you look at the Bears fans, you have a team that's maybe, depending on traffic and everything, you're right there, though, and you can go to those games, even if you live in the suburbs and not the actual city. But now you have to travel for every home game. And I think that's just a burden that you're placing on the fan base that has been through everything with your franchise for so long. And I think it's just going to be really tough for you to move to Indiana because how many people are really going to come to those home games every time for the same ticket prices? Because now maybe, okay, well, if you have a couple drinks at the stadium, you're not going to drive home, so you have to
and that was the beauty of Soldier Field being in the middle of Chicago, right? It was in downtown Chicago.
Right.
And if you know Chicago, they got some of the best public transportation between, you had the Loop, you had the Red Line. You can get everywhere walking, right? So you could literally go to the game, throw back a couple brewskis, leave the game, and you could catch the train, you could catch the Loop, you could catch the Red Line out of Chicago and maybe take an Uber or whatever home, the rest of the way home. But now you have to drive all the way out to Indiana if you live in the Chicago area just to see your team play. I don't know a lot of fans who are going to want to do that. I know here in Tampa Bay, because we have the Rays, they're all the way out in St. Pete. Nobody wants to drive all the way out to St. Pete to go watch the Rays play.
I'm since my freshman year, which was 3 years ago.
Yeah,
I'd never been to what's the stadium called?
I don't know the name of the Rays
Tropicana.
Stadium. Oh, Tropicana.
It was Tropicana Field. Yeah,
Yep.
I've never been to Tropicana Field. It's it's a hike out there.
Yeah,
but
and then the traffic driving out there and coming back is horrible.
Right, but I went to Steinbrenner for a couple games last year, and tickets were super cheap. But I'm not going to drive all the way out there for a team that I'm not a super fan of.
Yep.
And it's just not worth it especially if the team's doing bad. And I mean, the Bears have been doing amazing.
Yeah, you could see the potential growing.
You can definitely see the potential, but after everything in this 3-year rebuild, I'd say, since Caleb Williams
Yeah.
came into the frame and
Well, this is like
everything.
his second year, really.
This is his second year, but
Yeah, going
I
into
feel
his
like they've been
third.
rebuilding for about
Oh,
3 or 4
yeah,
years.
They've been
Because
building
they
slowly,
keep
getting the
turning over
pieces. Yeah.
turning over pieces and everything. But
Yep.
now you're finally good, and you're gonna move out of the state
Dude.
and consider it the metropolitan area, which is fine. I get that, but it's gonna. I think it's gonna have long-term implications for
Oh,
the
yeah.
fan base and
Yep.
the Bears as a whole
Yep. So,
organization.
like, we brought up, they're potentially moving out of the state, right? We brought up the Rays earlier. The Rays are planning to build a new stadium. They're getting a new stadium. I remember for a while, though, the talk was the Rays are probably going to move out of Florida because the Florida wasn't going to give them money to build a stadium, or they weren't going to have the taxpayers pay for the stadium. But they ultimately stayed in Tampa, but they're no longer going to be in St. Pete. They're moving to Tampa. The Bears, they're not staying in Illinois. They're not staying in Chicago. Yeah, Chicago metropolitan area, but they're not in Chicago, the
Right.
heart of Chicago, where you got the deep dish, you got the Chicago dog. They're moving to Indiana.
Right.
Like, come on. It's state lines. People aren't going to want to drive out there. When you think of Chicago Bears, you think of in Chicago. Now, when you think of Chicago Bears, it's going to be, they're not really in Chicago. They're in Indiana. So now you got to split the time. Indiana already has a football team. It's the Indianapolis Colts. So now what's going to happen is you're going to have like you said earlier, they're not going to have a lot of fans show up to the games anymore. The Oakland Athletics went through it a couple years ago when they announced they were moving to Vegas. The amount of backlash, because Oakland Athletics have always been in Oakland.
Right.
They desperately needed a new stadium. But instead of trying to work out a deal to stay there, they wanted to move to Vegas. And they are moving to Vegas. But you saw the backlash the fans got. Now imagine that. That's going to be times 10, times 100 in Chicago. Because that team bleeds Chicago Bears. They bleed Chicago Cubs. Now you're going to take that from them. It's going to be no holds barred in Chicago. They leave Chicago.
And I'll just throw out something out there. I'm an Eagles fan. If I lived in the city of Philadelphia and not in the Tampa Bay area, and the team was asking me, a diehard fan, to pay for their new stadium in a different state, I'm not paying for that.
Oh, no, facts. And the thing is, that's why I think Indiana has the edge, because they're willing to give the Bears the money to pay for the stadium, because the Bears were asking for $855 billion or $1 million. And the whole plan was like a $5 million plan. They were going to put restaurants, they were going to put the new stadium and all this other stuff. That's cool and all, but the people of Chicago shouldn't have to pay for it.
And it makes Hampton, Indiana a landmark, not Chicago.
Exactly. All right, so that's our opinion on it. I don't think they should move. I think they should stay in the heart of Chicago and continue to build that history and that legacy there. But just make sure you guys stay right here, because after the break, we got a lot more coming up. We got Tyreek Hill return to form after his injury. Again, he had the dislocated knee, tore his ACL and a bunch of other ligaments in his knee. And everyone knows he's the cheetah. Is he going to return to form? Make sure you guys stay right here. We got all that right after this break. More than a woman to me. I was thinking about changing the lyrics to more than a receiver, but I didn't know how I was going to make that flow, make that rhyme. Don't worry. But Tyreek Hill, right? He's known as the cheetah. Or cheetah. You guys didn't catch that little slang there. But either way, he dislocated his knee earlier this season. I think it was like the 4th game of the season. And a dislocated knee, he tore some ligaments, a bunch of minor ligaments, but he also tore his ACL. Now, Tyreek Hill is known as the speedster, the cheetah, because he's fast, blowing by guys, getting open deep, catching the deep balls, turning a short route, taking it long. Question is he going to return to form after this injury and be the same receiver he was before, after it?
I mean, that depends. Let me ask you this. What is his form before injury? Because if we're not considering the Dolphins.
No, I would still consider the Dolphins because even in his last season, he had like 959 yards last season before this one. So he was still getting up there, putting up almost 1,000 yards. Because before that, he was still putting up 1,000 yards. His first season with the Dolphins, almost every season with the Chiefs. So he's productive going up to this season. Is he still going to be the same productive receiver after this injury? Because he's never been a great route runner. He's never been known for his hands. He's always been known for don't let him blow by you, because if he gets by you, you ain't catching up.
Deuces,
he's throwing up the deuces. He literally had deuces painted on his hands for anyone who ever looked at his gloves, because you can't do that. It's taunting.
Yeah, he got fined for that. Yeah.
He got fined multiple times. I think, what was it? In the Bucs Super Bowl, the guy gave it back to him, blocked the pass, threw up the deuces.
Yeah.
He got flagged.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah.
But is he going to still be the same receiver after tearing his ACL?
I don't even think, even you saying that he had 950 yards, I don't think he was as productive. Tua wasn't the greatest quarterback, right? And he didn't have the greatest deep ball, which was Tyreek's forte.
Yep.
But at the same time, he's not a Puka Nacua. He's not a Cooper Kupp. He doesn't fit in that kind of offensive scheme. And I don't see him changing his entire repertoire to kind of post ACL tear, and dislocated knee and all the other things that he's going through right now. I just don't know where he's going to end up, especially after being released from the Dolphins, which, in my opinion, makes sense with the firing of Mike McDaniel and everything that's going on in that organization.
They knew after last season they were going to clean house. I don't think he's going to be the same this season for the same reason you said, right? I don't think he's going to change his repertoire, or he's even going to have time to, because he's coming off the ACL. He's going to have to rehab, obviously, get back to walking on it, figure out how that's all going to work for him. But he's never been a great route runner. He's not someone who's going to carve you up in the routes like a Devontae Adams or a Marvin Harrison or Devontae Smith, right? He's not going to have the hands like a Puka Nacua, a Stephon Diggs. His thing was he's always been the guy who's been faster.
Right.
He's going on 30 years old. And he's coming off an ACL. And you say he hasn't been productive. I think he was still productive for the Dolphins because he was the Dolphins' number one receiver, and he had Jalen Waddle on the other side. He had other guys to draw attention away from him. So I think he's been productive, as much as I hate to admit. He was productive when he was with the Dolphins. He was productive when he was with the Chiefs. I don't think he's going to be as productive after this ACL injury, because that's your anti-crucial ligament, if I'm saying that even correctly. And a lot of guys don't come back from that. Yes, technology has gotten better, has made more advancements, but I don't see him being his type of receiver coming back and putting up the same numbers unless he completely changes, which might take a couple seasons for him to change his style of play.
Well, if you look in the recent past, AJ, and you look at all the people who have torn their ACL, the only one that I can think of that came back better than they were is Saquon Barkley. And looking at the history behind ACL tears and just how destructive it is to a player's career in the NFL, I don't see him being out there as much for extended periods and extended drives and having the same snap count and snap share.
Oh, yeah, because they're going to try and protect him.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't see him fitting into the NFL as this, okay, I'm faster than everyone and I can beat everyone off of rip.
Yeah.
And if you look at it, I mean, I think he's just going to be, that guy that's kind of like a Kayshon Boutte. Can catch a deep ball every once in a while. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, you look at Devontae Adams had an amazing season this past season. Yep. He's still great, even though he's getting up in age.
But his style is different from a Tyreek Hill.
Right.
His style is, I'm gonna carve you up in my routes. And as you get older, obviously you become more experienced. You know, oh, I can sit down here. I'm not gonna get hurt, or I'm not gonna take a beating. If you look at the last couple guys, like you said, who have come back from ACL injuries, and just looking at the receiver position, Stephon Diggs was the latest one, right? Because he had 1,000+ yards this season. His style, though, is he's going to carve you up in your routes,
Right.
and he's going to outhand you for the ball, or he's going to jump up or find a way to beat you for the ball. Julian Edelman, one of my favorite receivers, if you notice, in the year we went to Super Bowl 53 was his comeback year after his injury.
Right.
You saw what he did that season. I want to say he posted almost 1,000. I'm not sure if he actually cracked 1,000. But then in the Super Bowl, he won Super Bowl MVP. But what was his style? His style was, I'm gonna get you under. I'm gonna sit down in these zones. I'm gonna carve you up and I'm gonna beat you for the ball and I'm gonna get my run after yards. But he got older. He got more experienced. Tyreek Hill's a different type of receiver. He's not like a Devontae Adams, whose style is always he's had great hands. He's not a Larry Fitzgerald, whose style is I got great hands. He doesn't catch with his hands. If you ever notice, he always catches with his body or it's catching over his shoulder. That's not his style. His style is even when people game plan for him, right? They say don't sit up on him, don't press him. Because if you press him, he's got you right there at the line. And so it's like, okay, when you look at his game before this injury, his game was always, if I can get past you, I can beat you, and you ain't going to touch me. Now it's got to be, how am I going to carve you up? How am I going to sit down in zones and make that work for me going forward?
Right. And I think that he's going to be more like a DeAndre Hopkins.
Ooh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas, he's not as prominent. No one's focusing their entire defensive scheme on him anymore. Whereas, he was a coach's nightmare before games.
Yep.
I mean, how are you going to stop him from running by your entire defense?
Yep.
You might have to go into cover 3 with
cover
two
2.
deep safeties.
Yep.
It doesn't matter what you do. He's still going to beat you in that running. And now he doesn't really have that aspect with the ACL tear. He's going to be slower no matter what.
Oh, facts.
He's going to be slower no matter
He's
what.
going to have to change his game. If he wants to continue to be a threat, he's going to have to change his game.
And for all you listeners out there that play fantasy football, my biggest thing, don't draft him.
Oh,
I'm
facts.
telling you right now, don't draft him.
I wouldn't have drafted him in the last couple of years.
I drafted him last year.
Oh, I feel sorry for you.
Yeah, I know. It was
Really.
It was a pretty rough week when Tyreek Hill. I lost Tyreek Hill and Malik Neighbors right in that 1 week.
That's brutal. But with the injury, he got released by the Dolphins, obviously, a couple weeks ago or a few weeks after the offseason. A lot of people are speculating what teams are going to want to pick him up. Is he still going to be the same guy? The teams I think that are going to probably pick him up because they need a wide receiver one. A lot of people are speculating the 49ers. A lot of people are speculating the Bills, and they're also speculating the Chiefs, that he could go back and have a reunion with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. I think for him, the smart decision would probably be to go back to the Chiefs because that's where he had his best years. They know his playing style. They know him. I don't want him in the AFC East as a Patriots fan because I'm not trying to see him twice a year. But I also don't think he'll fit in Buffalo, really, with Josh Allen, Keon Coleman in the run game because that is a very run-dominant team. He's a pass guy. He's always been on a team that's pass first. I don't know if his style of play is going to fit within the Bills' scheme.
I think I'm gonna counter you on that. I think that he would be a perfect fit for either the Bills or the 49ers. And I have two different reasons for that. The Bills, I think that he can stretch out defenses. And I think that
post-injury, though?
I still think that's going to contribute to the Bills' run offense. Now, the 49ers, on the other hand, I don't think that it's necessarily the best fit for the 49ers, but I think Kyle Shanahan, he can do anything with players. I mean, look at what he did with Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold just won the Super Bowl.
Well, Sam Darnold also came from the Vikings,
right?
Too, so he developed a lot before he got to Seattle.
Right. But all I'm saying is in that offensive scheme, Sam Darnold learned a lot and won the Super Bowl because of Kyle Shanahan. I'm going to say that right here. That's a hot take.
Dude.
He won it because of Kyle Shanahan's coaching.
That's a bullshit. I don't think he won it because of Shanahan. Did Shanahan have a hand in that? Yes, he did. But he wasn't the sole reason because he still had Clint Kubiak and he had who's the Vikings head coach? He still had whatever the Vikings head coach is. But he had more than just Kyle Shanahan for his help. We're getting off topic, though. Let's get back to the main subject.
With Tyreek Hill, I think that Kyle Shanahan could make him potentially a better route runner and fit into his scheme. I really do, and especially with Christian McCaffrey in that offense, that takes the pressure away from a route runner like Tyreek Hill. I know he's not great at routes, but I think he can become a better route runner.
And to your point, they have one of the greatest route runners ever in their history with Jerry Rice.
Right.
So if he humbles himself enough and is willing to learn from Jerry Rice and how to best ways to run routes, even just get better than what he is now, he could probably be contributing to the Niners. I still don't think he's a great fit for the Bills, though.
See, if I'm James Cook, dude, I'm praying that Tyreek Hill comes to my
I'm not,
organization.
because you say he's going to I don't see him stretching the field after this injury. I really don't.
I think that even though his injury is going to be detrimental to his career, I still think that it's going to be a great fit for him in the Bills.
Okay. We agree on some things. We disagree on the teams he's going to. Obviously, you think he'd fit with the Bills. I don't know about that one, but I'm gonna let you have your pipe dream. As long as he stay out of the AFC East, I'll be happy because I ain't trying to see him twice a year. Once in Buffalo, once in New England. That's a nightmare for me. You know what I'm saying? So, but after this, we got MLB possibly having a salary cap like the NFL. What, good or bad? Do you want it? Do you not want it? That's the topic on the table after the break. Make sure you guys stay right here, and we'll be right back after this break. You rock my world, you know you did. You rock my world. All right, so the MLB is thinking about adding a salary cap.
I'm excited to debate about this one.
I know you are. You've been geeking about it the whole show. But yeah, they're possibly thinking of adding a salary cap, especially after last year the Dodgers won back-to-back World Series titles. The commission has come out and talked about it. Other owners have come out and talked about it. The big thing, the 5-year labor contract is expiring for the MLB here in the next couple of years, and the MLB they have to renegotiate the deal for the upcoming contract, I guess, for the labor. And then you've got guys like Steinbrenner who have talked about it. The Manfred has talked about it. And his whole thing is fans and players are concerned about pay disparity amongst the teams. So I guess the question is, do you think the MLB should institute a salary cap going forward?
Absolutely.
Oh, God. Why do you think, in my opinion, I don't think they should. Because when you look at the teams, yes, they should. The pay should be somewhat monitored because team spending is getting a little out of control. But at the same time, you can't blame teams for playing within the rules, right?
No, I don't blame them at all. That's why I think it should be implemented.
They have a salary tax. And I know some people don't know what the salary tax is. It's if you go over a certain pay limit for your teams, they have to give the league a certain amount of money. It goes into a certain pot. And the pot's supposed to be dispersed against your smaller market teams so they could go out and spend. But a lot of these players, people complain about these players getting paid. The only paid guy that I complain about is Juan Soto getting $765 million.
Yeah.
Just because, in my opinion, he ain't worth $765 million. A Shohei Ohtani, though, is worth $700 million. A Freddie Freeman's worth $300-400+ million. Same thing with like a Mookie Betts. That's the whole big piece. Like, oh, this pay is getting out of control. All the teams are buying up all these all-stars and all these big player names.
Let me just give you one statistic. The Dodgers' payroll in 2024 was $353 million. The Brewers' payroll was $143.
And what happened to the Brewers?
They made it far, but that doesn't mean anything. I don't think that if you're a team with more money, you should necessarily be able to pick all the big stars. Dude, they just picked up the biggest offseason acquisition in Kyle Tucker.
And Edwin Diaz.
Because they paid him more.
And Edwin Diaz.
And that was only because they paid him more.
Oh, facts.
So now you have the trumpets going off in Dodger Stadium, too.
Dude. But people complain about it, but people also forget the Dodgers have the number. Last season, they were ranked number 1 in the farm system. They were ranked number 4 this year in the farm system. So you can't take away. They also know how to develop players. I think people take that away from them.
True. I will give you that.
The salary cap, people need to be willing to pay these players. I know Hal Steinbrenner, the current owner of the Yankees, is one guy who's come out and publicly spoken against or publicly spoken for having a salary cap. And here's what I got to say to Hal Steinbrenner. Dude is the owner of the freaking Yankees. You're the reason the MLB has a salary tax in the first place because your daddy at the time wanted to go and spend $200-300 million, and which would probably be equated to the $300 million, $700 million these players are getting now. Your daddy ran the freaking 90s, and he's the reason we have a salary tax now. Because him and the Red Sox in the early 2000s were going out spending money just to beat each other in the freaking ALCS. So why are you sitting here acting like, oh, we don't want to pay our players? Dude, you are a billion-dollar team. And you're saying here, oh, but that doesn't necessarily mean we make revenue. Yes, you do. Stop lying to us. All of us ain't stupid. We can see the writing on the walls.
Right.
So I don't necessarily think there needs to be a salary cap. I think teams just need to dig in their pockets and stop being cheap.
I don't know. If I was personally Jeff Bezos and owned $40 billion, my first train of thought would go buy a sports team, right? And if I was going to do that and buy an MLB team, I would probably create the greatest roster that the MLB has ever seen. And I think that I would continue to just pay the luxury tax. And for teams that have billionaires that can do that, I think it's just an unfair advantage. It's almost like a competitive advantage in business.
Oh, yeah.
And it's sustainable because not everyone has that kind of money in their pockets.
Yeah.
Everyone has money, not that type of money, though.
Yeah. And then to close it off, I want to ask you a question. So back in 94-95, there was a player strike because they wanted to institute a salary cap. Obviously, the players won because there is no salary cap. Do you foresee a player strike or a league lockout because of this whole situation?
100%.
I think we are going towards either a league lockout or a player strike here in the near future, so I do agree with you on that. But if you want to dive more into this, maybe come back next week. Maybe we'll still be talking about the same thing. You never know. We got to step out from between the lines this week. It's getting to that time. Some of us got to go home and sleep. I've been up all day. I know some of y'all have been up all day. But come back next Thursday, 2 o'clock. We might be talking about the same thing, continuing this debate. We might be talking about something new. You never know. You got to come back, hang, chill, and getting in on the conversation. All right, guys, that's going to be us for today. Much love and peace. We out.